Welcome, everyone, to the January 21st edition of the Signals from Mars live stream. The house is packed. This is the largest group of people that we've ever had here, 9 in total, including myself. So going around the clock here, we have this is almost like Hollywood Squares here. With everyone lining up. So we have Steve Hoker in the top left here. We have Jose in Connecticut. We have Metal Dan. We have Jerry from Long Island. We have Dr. Poison Brad Dahl, bottom corner there. We have Johan in Sweden. We have Racer X, my older brother there to the left on top. And we have Jeremy Weltman in the center here. So we have a bunch of first-timers joining us. Thank you, all of you people, for joining us tonight for this discussion of top live albums. Who just bounced out there?
Somebody's just looking for the middle square.
Yeah, it was Jerry. Jerry just booted Jeremy out of the middle square.
There you go. He's got the
coveted position.
Who was always
to be Shadow Stevens.
Shadow Stevens, yeah, but was that Milton Berle? Was the old one?
No, Paul Lind.
Paul Lind, there you go.
Paul Lind. Oh, you had another. Charles Nelson Riley was another humdinger.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, on the pre-show on Fireside, we counted down the first 93 through 16 albums that were voted on. It was a diverse group of albums that you guys chose. And for those people that are joining us, either watching this via the chat or watching the replay or listening to this, by chance, the podcast version, this is based on what people submitted as their top 10 live albums. And if an album came in number 1, it received 10 points. Number 2 received 9, 3, 8, so on and so forth, all the way down to 10, which received 1 point. And we're going to see that this is a definitive list. From here up, there are some albums where it wasn't even close. There are others where it was. And as Jeremy pointed out in the pre-show, there's probably going to be more albums that we expect in this part of the list. So, and actually during that countdown, we caught an album that should have been in the top 15 that wasn't. So, being that I have this loaded, Queensryche's Live Crime was pushed out of the top 15 in the last hour, actually. So, let's see here. So let's kick it off here. At number 15, it is Rush with All the World's a Stage.
Mm-hmm. Good one. Mm-hmm.
Johan, surprised to see that?
No. It's a well-positioned place for the album. Yes.
There we go. Jerry. See, that's why Jerry needs to be in the middle. He's got all the material there. So, let's see.
Yeah, Jerry was also showing us his beer before, and I think nobody paid attention.
Oh, there we go. He's got his Day of the Dead Trooper. He's got his Fear of the Dark Trooper.
Ooh,
nice.
And he was showing us before off air. He was showing us. Oh, there you go. Metal Dan has got some Trooper stuff going too. Jerry with the Fear of the Dark tin, I believe, and his pint glass. That's awesome.
Wow. It's ready to rock and roll. That's a lot more on the roll.
Jerry, I think your mic's out because we couldn't hear what you were saying.
Santa dropped it off.
There you go.
Nice.
Well, obviously you were nice this year, so. See, I'm never prepared. But I have known it was going to be a trooper party. I would have had my bottle ready as well. But it is what it is. Coincidentally, at number 14, Iron Maiden with Rock in Rio. This is an album for me that I've listened to quite a bit because I saw them on that tour with Queensryche and Halford opening up. Although I didn't see them in Brazil, I did see them at Montage Mountain in Scranton, Pennsylvania. So this is a really good live album. I remember when this came out, Steve Harris saying that it was much better than their previous live albums because they played everything to tempo, which I could argue that, if you listen to any of their other releases, they feel live, even though maybe they're not to tempos how they were originally recorded, but they're still good albums. So any surprises so far with the Rush and the Rock in Rio? Anyone want to comment on the Rock in Rio?
I wrote to.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jerry.
I caught the same show in St. Louis, Missouri.
Awesome. Jose, go ahead.
No, I told you when I submit this one, it's on my running list. So in the last few miles of the marathon, cranking Run to the Hills really helped.
There you go. Cool.
Adding Sign of the Cross, that's awesome with Bruce doing that because it sounds much better with him doing the vocals.
Yeah. That and Klansman. It's that's why I think it's a shame that Priest hasn't done that with the Ripper years, where they do have good songs when Ripper was in the band, but that's what happens when one of the members' wives is the manager of the band. So they're focusing on Christmas albums and $90 T-shirts. So
it's a good pick. I think that's excellent. I don't understand the Rush. I listened to that and it's just a best of. I don't like Maiden. You hear it, that sounds live.
Mm-hmm.
Rush is just, they sound the same. So, but to each his own.
There you go. Cool. Next up, at 13, let me find the cover here. It is Queen with Live Killers. And Dan and I had this conversation about how there could be a list of greatest Queen albums because they've released a bunch of them. And a lot of them are really good. I've listened to Killers quite a lot. I've listened to Live Magic quite a lot as well. And it's funny because Brad, I think you know the guys from DC4. You've interviewed them, if I'm not mistaken. So I believe it wasn't Jeff Duncan. I think it was his brother Matt. Jeff is also an Armored Saint. When they released a live box set, the single was the fast version of We Will Rock You. And Matt had posted saying, I don't know why they've remixed this song this way. They're not going to get any more fans out of this. And I'm thinking, seriously? Like, you don't know that they've been playing this song like this since 75? Like it's on this fucking live album, you know? So it kills me when people say, especially a musician who's known, says, oh, I'm a huge fan. But they're such a big fan that they didn't even know that they were playing the song that way. I mean, it kills me.
Yeah, well, he's a bass player.
Well, takes one to know one, right there, Brad?
That's true, man.
Well, actually,
true.
Brad, Johan is laughing as well. Johan's a bass player also. So
I know that's why we're brothers.
Metal Dan is pointing to his bass as well. So
all right, awesome. What do you got over there?
It's in the case.
Yeah, that's a BC Rich. Yeah, I saw DC4. Those are good guys.
Yeah.
Cool. So anyone want to speak on Live Killers, Jeremy?
Yeah. I mean, that was my number one, actually. Although I could have picked any of my top 10 as number one. And the reason is it was a really important album for me growing up. It's one of their earliest live albums. I think it might even be the earliest album that they released. Late 70s. Brian May's just amazing on it. I mean, if you want to hear Brian May as a rock metal guitarist, that is the album, because he's awesome. I mean, the whole band was brilliant at that time, and obviously they morphed into a totally different outfit later on, but they were a proper rock band at the time, and that album proves it, I think.
Yeah, it's Brian that I think does 39 live, does the vocals. It's just amazing.
Yeah. So what you're saying is you don't like them with Adam Lambert now? You're not saying that they're rock gods now? Personally, post Freddie dying, they haven't done one thing that I've liked. I don't like what they did with Paul Rogers, and I don't know. I don't get it. And they were a huge band for me at one point in time, but it just got to the point where I bailed. I just didn't like what they did.
He's a big act to follow, isn't he, Freddie? I mean, it's difficult to follow in his shoes.
But even that, look at the album they released after Innuendo, Made in Heaven. It was just pieces of songs that Freddie didn't want to have released, and the rest of the band just went on and released it anyway, which is why John Deacon kind of exited the picture. He saw that Brian May and Roger Taylor was going to be a power play the whole time. So anyway, let's get back to the music. The next album, which I remember as a kid coming to Spain, and in all the magazines, they said that this was the ultimate live album. And I listened to it for the first time here in Spain, but it is probably Eddie Trunk's favorite live album. UFOs, Strangers in the Night.
What number did that come in as?
It came in at number 12.
Ooh.
So Jeremy has it again. UFO, a band that was much bigger in the UK than they were in the US. Although diehard rock fans from the 70s obviously knew who UFO was.
And actually recorded in the US as well. That album.
Yeah, because the intro he says, "Hello Chicago, epic recording artist UFO." Before Natural Thing kicks in.
Yeah, there's only two words you've got to say about that album. It's Michael Schenker.
Yeah, well, I mean, the version of Rock Bottom on that, with the extended solo and with the extended intro and everything, I mean, that's beyond ridiculous. And as a kid, before I messed my ankle up snowboarding, I learned how to play. The final song is "Let It Roll." I learned how to play that with one foot.
Wow.
Where Andy Parker's playing it with 2 feet. Post snowboard accident, no longer possible, but it was fun to say that I used to be able to do that. Any other fans of this UFO album? Jerry, you just showed it.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, speaking to John Bush recently, he talked about the fact that Joey Vera gifted him a box set version that they released, which apparently is the 5 separate shows that they used to actually make Strangers in the Night. My brother had the question the other day. He goes, "Well, do they have to be real live albums?" And I mentioned this on the pre-show. If we go by real live albums, we would have had like 5 albums to choose from. We wouldn't have gotten past like 3-4 albums. They're all worked on. So the reason that it came up was that I had asked John Bush if Armored Saint's latest live album, how live it actually was. And he goes on to say, he says, "Well, no live album is really live. We recorded 3 shows. The bulk of it is from New York, but there is one song that's from St. Louis because it just sounded better. So they
Is
must have
that
had. Go ahead.
like something fairly new, or if you go back to older albums from the 70s or maybe even the 60s with the limited technology now, though, you start finding more true live albums?
None of the albums that I have mentioned so far are 100% live. You could maybe pinpoint AC/DC Live, which came out in 1990. That's completely live because you can hear Angus Young break a string on a song. The Metallica box set, which I mentioned earlier, Live Shit Binge and Purge, that's completely live, which is no surprise because if you know what Metallica has done, they have a site called livemetallica.com, which 2-3 days after a show goes down, they release the shows warts and all. They don't edit them at all. So outside of that, most every other band, if they have the money, they polish stuff up because they want it to sound as good as possible.
Is that a young Viking we're seeing there on the screen?
Yeah, there you go.
I just want to know if he likes Amanda Marth.
Oh, yeah, he does. Absolutely.
He's a good man.
Does he
Then.
like Rush?
Yeah, he actually does.
Good, good. You taught him well.
You raised him well.
Yeah.
See, Jerry, and he's a hockey player as well. So
Yeah,
Right
he
on.
is.
If they like Thomas Sandstrom, then they're my heroes.
Oh, of course we do. All Sweden do.
A Rangers Thomas Sandstrom, not a Flyers, not a Detroit Red Wing, the original.
yeah, but he won the cup with Detroit. So
Well, listen, we could win the cup to save our life. So
Hey, I like Jason Arnott.
there you go. Anyway, let's keep it going here at 11. Another one that I'm sure some of you people will be surprised did not make the top 10. Thin Lizzy, Live and Dangerous. Another album that high on people's lists. There we go, Jeremy holding it up. Again, high on people's lists. It has always been known for just the power, the energy that this has, and it showcases what Phil Lynott was all about. Definitely a very important live album. Anyone want to speak on this one?
Yeah, it was a really important album when I was growing up. I think all of my friends had a copy of it. But Thin Lizzy they're a huge band in the UK at that time. And this really caught them live, at the height of the game, really. I mean, if you look down the track listings, Emerald was an amazing song on that album. Cowboy song, about warriors. It just goes on and on. It's just a really fantastic album.
Brad, I'm surprised you don't have a story about seeing Thin Lizzy in a broom closet in Santa Clarita somewhere or something like that.
I never did see Thin Lizzy, so yeah, I know it's pretty weird, isn't it?
Turn in your badge now.
Yeah, I've seen Black Star Riders a few times. Does that count for something?
Well, my closest to seeing them was supposedly was supposed to see the Sykes fronted version of the band. But for whatever reason, they didn't show up, and instead we got Lizzie Borden. So,
How was Lizzie?
par for the course, Lizzie Borden, which you would expect. Lizzie Borden, at the time doing his best impersonation of, or maybe it's Kid Rock doing his impersonation of Lizzie Borden wearing the flag, and the bikini-clad dancers around him and all that stuff. So,
I saw them on the Thunder and Lightning tour. They were great.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Where'd you
So-
see that show?
In Liverpool, 1983. It was February the 13th, 1983. And the only reason I remember the date is it was my mate's 16th birthday.
There you go.
Very nice.
That was impressive. Yeah, good.
It was cool. I was about 6 rows from the front as well, so I was quite close to Phil, right in the middle.
Nice.
Oh wow,
Really.
awesome.
Very
Wow.
nice.
Steve, I know that you have us blacked out here. You're redacted on screen. I hope that you're still hanging out
Yeah,
there.
I know. I don't know what's going on.
Well, I
I'm here.
learned this. I learned this weekend that with the camera goes to default. So if you switch it to front or back, it'll actually it should change from a black screen to something else.
Hopefully, I don't lose everybody.
It should. That's the operative word.
So did Murderous Metal Show live make your list? Lizzie Borden?
It did not. No,
It's
Lizzie
very
Borden.
live.
Is it?
My opinion. It's old. It's old school. What, 84,
Okay.
5-ish? Yeah.
Yeah, we had, like I said, 93 albums that people voted on, but no Lizzie Borden actually. And what I'll do here is I'll give you guys 20 through 11, and then we'll hop on into the top 10. So the first few we did on the pre-show. At 20 is Slaughter with Stick It Live. At 19 is Marillion with Reel to Reel. 18, Blue Oyster Cult with On Your Feet or Your Knees. 17, AC/DC Bonfire. 16, Operation Live Crime by Queensryche. 15, All the World's a Stage by Rush. 14, Iron Maiden Rock in Rio. 13, Queen Killers. 12, UFO with Strangers in the Night. And 11, Thin Lizzy with Live and Dangerous. So, number 10 is before seeing or hearing this album. I believe MTV or VH1 used to play it all the time. At 10, The Song Remains the Same.
No
by
way. Something wrong with you guys.
I didn't vote for that, Jerry. It wasn't me.
Jeremy, there's no way that's number 10. Jeremy, that's number 1. Come on, you're in England. Help me out, brother.
It's it's a fantastic album. You are right. You are right. I'm actually ashamed to say I didn't put it in my top 10, but I would have done. I would have done.
What happened with The Song Remains the Same, and we'll see this with a bunch of other albums where people may say, why didn't this album make it, or why did that album make it? Some of these bands released a bunch of different live albums. So Led Zeppelin, for example, got a bunch of votes for How the West Was Won. What I mentioned on the pre-show that we did, if we would have narrowed it down and maybe done like a pre-vote so that we narrowed down to one live album per band, The Song Remains the Same would have probably gone higher because more people would have voted for it. With a lot of these. You mean you don't like the version that the Plant and Page did with the whole orchestra and everything behind them? Yeah, Jerry might have cut out there. All right, so let's see, number 9. There you go. Jerry's showing us The Song Remains the Same again. But at number 9, we have someone that Brad Dahl did see in a broom closet. Judas Priest
Yes.
Unleashed in the East. Johan, you distinctly said yes. Give us your take on Unleashed in the East.
Oh, I mean, it's just for me growing up, it's a classic Judas Priest live album. So now we all know that it's not pre-recorded, but it's you know what I mean. But for me, it's the versions of Diamonds and Rust and the other songs are, for me, classics. And seeing that album in the, when you flip through those records, just a classic. I love that album. And for me, it's a top 10. Absolutely. Thank
Excellent.
Yeah, I agree.
Brad, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's actually quite a live album other than the vocals. I think Rob was having a bad night on the night they recorded that, and so he went in and fixed a lot of that stuff. But I think that musically, the guitars, bass, drums are all pretty much live. Only negative thing I can say about that is I really didn't like the effects on the guitars. They use those phase shifters on there that kind of softened the crunchiness of the metal guitar. But other than that, I mean, it's fantastic. Those Johan is right. Those versions of those songs, those are perfect. I mean, it's what you want to hear. Victim of Changes. I mean, that's the best version there is of Victim of Changes. And I give a lot of credit to Les Binks. I mean, I was lucky enough to see him twice with Les, and man, that dude could play, and his drum sound live was fantastic. Just though I guess there was something about not having the bottom heads on there and the way they were mic'd, but the toms they sounded so good. So great album, fantastic. And every time during those first two shows I saw, Stained Class and Hellbent for Leather tour, I mean, Rob was unbelievable. I mean, he didn't miss a thing. He was just like the best singer you'd ever heard live. So I don't fault him for fixing anything on that album. It's not like he could not do that stuff live, because he did.
Yeah, no teleprompters. So he was.
Yeah, he was young and a lot of cocaine, and I think that helps your memory. Most singers that I've worked with, they sing better when they're on cocaine. I don't know.
There you go. Dan, go ahead.
So the Screaming for Vengeance has the live from the US Festival, which is a lot of fun, which I recently checked out. And there's also, I don't think they have it all put together, but there's a cut of Devil's Child. I think it's from Dallas. It's after Unleashed. But just to hear Rob do Devil's Child back then you hear Rob do it recently on one of their newer live, you could tell that he is not the same Rob anymore. Yeah. I mean, that old version of that live is just killer and angry and fast.
Yeah. Yeah, there was I actually got to watch the 82 DVD that they put out like maybe 10 years ago, and they do Devil's Child. And it's just ridiculous seeing him just commanding the stage, going back and forth, just singing his absolute head off. And again, I say this time after time. Thank you, Ozzy Osbourne, for ruining that for us and getting into Rob Halford's mind and telling him to use a fucking teleprompter. So now he's glued to those damn things and doesn't move around. But just seeing him back then, even the Priest live show, which I know was touched up quite a bit. Just seeing them then was ridiculous. Now, I mean, Jeremy saw them recently. It's like having 5 Ian Hills on stage. So it's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
Wow, another bass player getting roasted.
Well, but Ian Hill was the guy that pioneered that, and now we kind of gone down where before Glenn and KK, moved around quite a bit on stage. Richie's kind of in his spot, but Andy doesn't move at all. Rob doesn't move at all now. He just does the Metal Gods dance, and that's about it. Go ahead, Dan.
Ian Hill hand delivered his bass guitar pick to my wife because she was screaming with him in the front row. He walked and handed and palmed it right in there. Ian Hill has all my respect. What's that?
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it was amazing.
That's awesome.
Well, I told the story about when I saw him at the Starwood on the Hellbent for Leather tour, and Ian actually started to move, and he stepped on his cord and unplugged his bass. It was the funniest thing ever. I mean, he tried to act like there was something wrong with his bass, so he walked behind his amp and he came back with a Gibson EB3, which I've never seen him play a Gibson other than that one time. And of course, me being, that was the bass I had starting out. I was just like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Of course, he never moved again after that.
See, karma. That one show that you got to witness the start and the end to Ian Hill moving around on stage.
There you go.
Flash of brilliance. Johan, you had raised your hand before. Did you want to add something? Oh, okay. No problem. Johan may want to add something now. So at number 8, Rush, Exit, stage left. Jerry holds the album up. Johan, being the resident president of the Rush Club here on Signals from Mars, wearing the Rush shirt tonight, he's thinking about his response. Number 8, Johan.
Yeah. Well, Rush should probably hold the first 4 or 5 first places, but that one is, as I said in the Patreon chat, I'm a little bit later Rush fan, so I really want to hear what you guys think about that record before I react. That's easier for me to speak also. Yeah.
I do think that the Rush album, similar to what I said about the Led Zeppelin, because All Worlds the Stage was 15, then Rock in Rio was a little down further, was at 42. So had everyone have voted for one Rush album, it probably would have made it up a little higher. At the same time, when you guys hear what the top few albums are, I don't think it's going to be a surprise because they're all monumental live albums, just like this Rush album. Similar to what Jeremy said before, any one of these could be number 1 because they're so popular, I think. Jerry, you put the album up. What's your opinion on it?
It's tremendous. Red Box. It's great.
I think the thing with Rush too is that they are so exact in their live shows. I mean, I remember watching an interview one time, and they asked Geddy Lee about, they said, magnificent show. And he said, no, we had, I don't know how many mistakes on stage. So, I mean, they're always out to play as close to studio as possible. So that's really hard to do. Really, really hard to do. I mean, I'm sure a lot of other bands try and do the same, but there's a little more freedom in how and when they're playing. There's a lot more ad lib, but just my take on it.
Go ahead, Jose. Your mic isn't working. No mic.
That's too bad. Yeah, Rush is a fantastic live band, and I don't know. I I picked All the World's a Stage as my favorite live album of theirs.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is it's just so real to me. It's like everything just you feel like you're there. The other live albums maybe are just a little bit too pretty. I don't know. I mean, they're really good. I'm not saying it's as a negative thing. I'm just saying that I don't know, that All the World's a Stage just made that band like these guys are real.
The other thing too that a lot of people take for granted is that they're a three-piece where, I mean, everyone who's a fan of the band obviously knows that Geddy plays both keyboards and bass and sometimes does it at the same time. And it's funny because I interviewed and sings. I interviewed somebody who's a very proficient bass player here in Spain who was telling me how his band was a three-piece. They wanted him to do similar. And he was telling me that he couldn't play the keyboard parts with his feet. And I said, he's not playing the keyboard parts with his feet. He's playing the bass with his feet. He's playing the keyboard with his hands, if you notice. The bass parts are what he's doing with his feet. So that's a testament to, how great a musician he is, and just the band in general, that all the different nuances and different things that they do, they were live all the time. So, Jose, let's see if your mic's working now.
Yeah, hopefully, and it's been glitchy on my end, so I apologize. So I was going to echo what Arturo said, that I saw an interview, I forget what concert tour it was, but Rush would
Just faded out.
Oh no, he went sideways. All right, Arturo, you want to jump in there and fill in?
Yeah, and
It must be Sikorsky's helicopters flying over his house,
There you go.
messing up the G5 or something.
there you go.
Yeah, no, and actually they were a three-piece band on stage. However, there were a lot more people playing air keyboards, air drums, air guitars. So it was the front few rows were quite the spectacle, which is pretty neat all onto itself. It's a show. So yeah, how can you hate Rush? It's like being angry at your grandfather.
Well, ask Nikki Sixx who tries to shit on them every chance he gets. But hey,
Nikki,
What?
Nikki,
yeah.
Nikki needs to.
No, wait, their live album didn't make our top list at all?
Well, no one voted for Vince Neil 20 seconds at a time.
They talk about
What-
life after death.
What did Nikki Sixx say?
Oh, he always says how boring and how he didn't understand them and how stuff like that.
No.
But I mean, it's pure.
You have to have an IQ over 70 to get Rush.
Yeah.
Well, and not only that, you have to remember Nikki Sixx is the only functional heroin addict who kept a diary for a year, of absolutely everything he was doing. So whatever.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I think Nikki Sixx was foreshadowing the fact that he wasn't going to make this list, and that's why he's jealous. So
I don't blame him.
I'm sorry for Mick Mars.
yeah, well, I'm sure Mick Mars is sorry for Mick Mars as well. Hey, Jerry, I just got a notification that the Hurricanes and Rangers are starting up in 5 minutes. Not sure if you want to watch that or not. So just you're going to Boston tomorrow? Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Johan, or does anyone else want to talk about Exit Stage Left before we throw it back to Johan? All right, Johan, go ahead. What else do you want to say about this album? Anything?
Actually, no. Yes, but it's hard to me to speak from my heart because of the language. So I rather react to your opinion, if that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Johan, your love for Rush is palpable. You don't even have to say a word. And we know how you feel.
Yeah,
So, and I have so much respect for that, dude. So,
Thank
well,
you very
well
much.
done.
I'll translate the Swedish
Yeah.
into English. What he's trying to say, and this is because I've caught several of Manamarth concerts. What he's saying is he's raising his horn to Rush.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, if
I
you want,
understand.
Johan, if you want, give us an explanation in Swedish. What would that sound like?
Det är enkelt. Rush är ju liksom, det är så, det är ett band som är så otroligt stort och komplicerat och det är inte för alla. Så är det pojkar. That's it boys.
There you go.
That'll take Victor a week to translate to put on the subtitles.
Yeah. Let's see if YouTube is smart enough and can do that. So
Hopefully it is.
album number 7. This album was huge. When anyone disputes how big this band was, yes, I'm raising my finger, my friend.
This is your second. This is your second time, but keep going. I'm not keeping track, but
all right. Whenever the discussion comes up about how important certain bands are to hard rock and metal, this album is one of the albums that proved it to me in the 80s that this band, along with Judas Priest, who's already come out, and Iron Maiden, who's already come out, this band was quite possibly bigger than both bands because they were selling out arenas in the States while Iron Maiden wasn't doing that yet. The band is Scorpions Worldwide Live. When this album came out, and up until this day, you can walk into any rock bar in Spain and you will still hear Big City Nights, Bad Boys Running Wild, Still Loving You, and Rock You Like a Hurricane on any given night. And I remember as a kid when this came out, even bars that weren't rock bars were playing those very songs. So this album is number 7, and I get why it's there. And that's why I was saying no disrespect to Rush, but I think we're going to see that the albums that are here were just hugely popular albums when they came out, and they still continue to be popular. I mean, the videos for some of those songs that I just mentioned were played to hell on MTV, the live videos, while they had studio videos for them as well. Who else wants to discuss Worldwide Live? Anyone a fan of the album? I know more than one of you guys voted for it.
It's the way Klaus says California. So I have German heritage, and it's a very live album to me. It deserves to be there. I own it. I listened to it many times. So it's good.
Awesome. And I don't know if Jeremy went to go get the album all of a sudden, but we're checking.
He has it. Yeah.
Yeah, he has to have it. Yeah.
Yeah, they reference, I guess it's recorded in San Diego. So it's very local. So it was a huge album when it came out.
Yeah, absolutely.
when their songs came on cue on MTV, you didn't move. You stayed put, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, they knew how to feed their audience because, you know, it was concert footage, it was babes, it was, you know, they knew how to
coming off the airplane, taking the hat off the police officer, putting it on, the whole driving down the Autobahn at, I guess, 200 kilometers an hour, which was a big deal back in the day.
Yeah.
The Forks in the Eye, the album cover, they were edgy and slightly on the sadomasochistic innuendos as far as their imagery.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I can actually say that I got to see, I've told this story many times. I got to see the opposite. I got to see the police officer take the hats off of Klaus and Matthias and everyone else going through customs. So I've gotten to see both sides of that scenario.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, I always tell this story. We're sitting in Charles de Gaulle Airport, and I'm seeing this guy coming down the escalator, and I say to my wife, I say, "Who's this clown all dressed up like that? Who the fuck's he think? He's a member of the Scorpions or something?" And then all of a sudden I realize, oh, that actually is.
Yeah, because he is.
Yeah, it's because it is. So it was funny. So all right, number 6, an album that was number 1 for a good portion of the week. I was actually exchanging messages with Ed Ferguson all week, and he copped to me that actually his favorite band is actually my brother's favorite band.
Uh-oh.
AC/DC and If You Want Blood. Again, a concert that, much like Song Remains the Same, I remember them playing this on TV. MTV used to play this at night. VH1 played it for a while as well when they got the rights to it. Obviously, the big deal here, or what makes it an even bigger deal, is the fact that, it's Bon Scott. It's one of the only, really good, clear shows with him. Obviously, this was released while he was still alive. I actually have the Blu-ray version, which a few weeks ago, we were actually doing something with my kids, and they said, "Oh, can we watch a concert while we're doing this?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So we watched this. We watched If You Want Blood. So Jerry, much to nobody's surprise, has it. Who wants to discuss the album?
Yeah,
I played this earlier on my headphones, and it just sounds perfect. There's nothing else to say. It's perfect.
There you go.
Yeah.
Jeremy, go ahead.
Yeah, when I was a kid, this was probably the number 1 album that everyone would have said was their favorite live album. We all had it as kids. We all headbanged to A Whole Lot of Rosie. I mean, that was the song that we played at parties. We all got on our knees and headbanged to it, and it was just an amazing song. I don't think I actually listened to the rest of the album for about a year after I bought it. I only ever played Whole Lot of Rosie. It was amazing. Is that just? I'm trying to remember. Is that the one? Is that the one that was actually recorded in Glasgow? I've got a feeling it was at Glasgow that they recorded it, or at least I remember reading that this was the famous concert they ever did there, where the upper tier used to bounce, so everybody would be in the circle on the upper seats, and the whole auditorium would bounce when they were there, and they were unsure why it never actually fell down and collapsed. But it's just an amazing album. It's as you say, it's a brilliant collection of Bon Scott era.
Yeah, recorded April 30th, 1978 at the Apollo Theatre in Glasgow, Scotland.
Yeah, there you go, Glasgow. Yeah,
so, Glasgow. Excuse me.
Yeah. The Jack is an amazing song as well. I think that was the first song I actually ever played along to on my guitar as well.
I was just going to say, being the blues guitarist, I'm sure that Jack really stood out to you.
There you go.
Yeah. Cool. Anyone else want to mention anything about the album?
Much like a whole lot of Rosie, a Problem Child was my go-to song. I think I might have played that about 8 hours straight before I moved on to anything else, and perpetual loop. Yeah, so and I would do that to the people at work, and I really didn't care. I'd have it down low enough for myself, but it was playing music for myself. But yeah.
We used to roll up our trousers to it as well. That was the other thing.
There you go. Well, this was, didn't you mention previously that this AC/DC is what you guys would put on when you guys would have the get-togethers, and it was like the only crossover band that would work to dance with the girls or something like that?
Yeah, well, it was the album that we put on at parties in garages and when we were kids, and yeah, it was just it was amazing. Yeah, we'd be on our knees with our trousers rolled up. We'd grab tennis rackets. We were having a great time.
You got the jack.
There you go. Awesome.
Hopefully not.
Well, he said there were girls there.
You know, when Steve does say something, he nails it.
There you go. Number
Even in darkness.
even in darkness. There you go. Number 5 is an album that Jeremy was telling me all week was going to be number 1. It is an album that both of us had on our list, and I can say right away that this is the first thing that I ever listened to in my life when I was 4. Thanks to my brother, Kiss Alive 2. So all these years later, podcasting 2022, you can blame my brother Art for this.
Yeah, so thanks to Kiss Alive 2. That's the I guess was that my original vinyl?
Yes, it is.
Nice. So I guess that's kind of the question why I asked, did it have to be true originals versus was it true recording, and that's kind of why I went with a live one, since it was the original. But yeah, it was you had the tattoos, which are very, very sought after back in the day. Showing up at school with the Kiss tattoo. I'm sure they were lead tattoos back in the day, which were really awesome.
You go with your mercury fillings.
Yeah.
FDA approved.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know if you remember, Victor, a lot of times, like, we would record it, put it onto a cassette, and that's what we would listen to in the morning while getting ready to go to school. Wait for my friend Stefan to come by, and we'd listen to whatever was queued up or already playing, and then we'd head out to school, and we'd be talking about Kiss, and yeah, it was fun times.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I mean, the Evolution of Kiss, I think, is the name of the booklet that originally came with it. I mean, it's here, but it's shredded to hell. I mean, the bottom of this album the jacket is being held by Scotch tape, which went on at some point in the 80s.
I can't even begin to say how many times. I mean, every album we had, the little collection that we had was I think as soon as we got home, there was something on the turntable.
Yeah.
And our parents would get home, and then the volume would be turned down from at 11. Well, we weren't at 11, but we were at 7, 8 a lot of times. The old RCA turntable rocking the house.
Yeah. So this image right here at 4 years old is what you guys can blame for me doing this show at 48. So
That was Victor's pose in the front of the house when he was playing air guitar, and the cars would be driving by, and he'd be on his air guitar, and people would be honking and just waving at him as they're driving by to go to Welch's store. Remember that?
yeah, well,
That was his first taste of fame.
infamy. I don't know about fame.
Infamy.
Yeah.
They wouldn't do anything today, as they could be accused of being pedophiles today, but
There you go. Who else wants to talk about Alive 2? Jeremy, you had it on your list?
Yeah, it was it's hugely important in the UK as well. It was probably my first introduction to Kiss. I think a friend of mine had the album, and I bought it off him. I bought a secondhand copy of the vinyl, and I listened to that. And obviously, Kiss were not just the music; it was the look and everything about Kiss that was very different. But yeah, they were very big over in the UK at that time. I think they broke big when that album came out. And it was a great introduction to a lot of their songs, and also I thought it was a lot better than Kiss Alive 1 as well. I thought it sounded better.
That, and for me, the song selection to me is better on Alive 2 than Alive 1. I mean, there are songs that I could interchange personally, like there are certain things that I could do without on Alive 2, Beth and Hard Luck Woman being the main things, but I could, off of Alive, I don't like all the songs either, but this was definitely it. And that side 4, which wasn't live, but it still had a lot of great stuff on it. It had Ace
it
Frehley.
definitely showed a progression in the band's maturity, and by that point, they were just taking off. So
and it's a shame because they were taking off, but it was also Alive 2, if you kind of think about it, was also the beginning of the end, because although they did have ghost players on Destroyer and on other albums, I mean, side 4 only has Ace Frehley on one song. It doesn't have Peter Criss on every song. So it was, the sign of things to come. But still a hugely important album. Anyone else want to speak to Alive 2 before we move on to album number 4? Go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, well, I was lucky enough to have been at one of the shows that was recorded for that album. And I can say that they were even better actually live than on album. They were so good at that time. And, as we know now, the band was imploding at that time. Things were really kind of falling apart within the band. But live, they were just unbelievable. And the picture of the gatefold, the inside of that, it doesn't do the real thing justice. It was just incredible. The stuff that blew up and the heat coming off the stage. I mean, yeah, exactly. That, yeah, it was I mean, the spectacle was one thing, but they were such a good live band at that point. I mean, the vocals were on point. Everything was good. Peter Criss could still play. Ace was just fantastic. Paul could sing. Gene was Gene, and it was, yeah, they were at the peak musically, even if as a band they were kind of getting ready to fall apart. So great album.
Definitely bombastic. I mean, it was, and that's what they are. They are a show, but aside from all the blood fires and smoke out of the guitars, I mean, they brought the music. They threw down. So yeah, it was.
Yeah. I mean, they got a lot of crap because of the makeup and the show and everything. And I'm here to tell you that, I mean, I saw them, I don't know how many times during the 70s. Those guys could all play and they could all sing. And they were really, really good live.
Yeah, I think the misconception with Peter Criss as a player is that he was a monster then. I mean, he could play. He to me, Peter Criss in the 70s was as important as a John Bonham, as important as an Ian Pace, as important as a Neil Peart. I'm not saying that he was better, but he had his own style. He had a swing jazz style that he brought that no one else was bringing to what they were doing. And that influenced a lot of people. I know a lot of people that want to do revisionist history will tell you, oh no, they suck because their songs weren't as good, this and that. At that point in time, there are very few other bands that influenced as many musicians as Kiss did for everything that that you guys are saying. And much like you guys are mentioning, I still have people that I've spoken to about Kiss here and there from the UK that will instantly pan them. Oh, it's just the image. It's just the image. No,
no, they were my generation's Beatles. I mean, they were more responsible for people picking up musical instruments in my age group and those right behind me than any other band. Any other band.
Agreed. All right, so moving on to number 4. This was also something that was in a heavy rotation as a child.
Oh, wow, it made it. Wow.
Cheap Trick live at Budokan, the original, because they've since done a Budokan 2. They've done a Budokan the whole show where they combine both. And much like all the other albums that we've discussed, this was the majority of it was re-recorded in the studio. But I do think that the love that a lot of people have for a lot of these songs, I think a lot of people really don't care. I mean, the version of I Want You to Want Me off of this is the definitive version for most people. And I don't think that anybody sits there and says, yeah, I don't like it so much because they dubbed the crowd screaming in behind them. For the most part, nobody gives a shit. I mean, for a point in time there, oh my God, they re-recorded this, they re-recorded that. Okay, let's get back to listening to it now. It was like a passing conversation at one point in time, but in the end, that version for a lot of people, the Budokan version, had that emotional connection with people. And at the end of the day, that's what matters, at least in my opinion. So
that album broke them. I mean, they really weren't that big until that album came out.
Yeah. Yeah, this was, I'll always say it, we had Alive 2, we had Destroyer, we had Budokan, Back in Black, Led Zeppelin 4, Ted Nugent's Scream Dream, and that was the constant rotation every day. So Live at Budokan plays a huge part for me in my musical upbringing. So so I can throw this to my brother. What originally turned you on to Cheap Trick and to want to get this album?
At the drums, Mr. Bunny Carlo, and I could picture him with a cigarette button just going at it, his arms just going at the snare drum with this unpretentious, I'll say, and I'm sure it wasn't, but crappy little drum set, and he was just rocking it. Rick Nielsen was very just seeing him with his whole guitar collection. He had that, I don't know how many necks. There was like at least 5 necks. I don't know how many. So his guitar collection was amazing. What turned me on to Cheap Trick was actually, I think I was in either 5th or 6th grade, and I went. This was in the summer. Went down to recreation, and one of the girls down there that was looking after us, or one of the chaperones, or whatever you want to call them, back in the day, I guess they were either like freshmen or sophomores in high school, and they were talking about, oh my God, we went to see, and it was Van Halen and Cheap Trick at some point, and and they said, oh, it was amazing, and from that point on, I was looking out for. I wish back then we had what we have now with the ease of listening to music on like Apple Music, because it was hard to come by and listen to different albums. But you heard what people were saying, and I just came across Cheap Trick just by coincidence, and other people that had gone to a concert and saying, oh, that was amazing. No, it was the same people that said Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes were amazing as well. So yeah, it was one of those things. Word of mouth.
Yeah.
Jerry, what are you killing me there? You're killing me, Jerry.
Well, that's real pizza. You know.
Yeah, it
Can't
is.
even-
I
Vic.
suggested, I suggested pizza for dinner. I got shot down like a clay pigeon.
Yeah.
Long ass pizza, bitch.
There you go. Who else
Jersey
wants?
pizza's not bad either.
Well, I can tell you what is bad: Spanish pizza. Anyway, who else wants to chime in on Live at Budokan? Any takers?
I mean,
Heartthrob singer and bass player.
Go ahead, Johan.
actually, Cheap Trick is a band that I know almost nothing of, and they were big here in Sweden, probably before I was at any age, but now, should I listen to them? Are they good?
I think this album is the album to listen to. If you want to listen to anything by them, this has, outside of Dream Police, which is the only other big song that isn't on this, this pretty much has all of their most known songs on it. And much like Kiss, as my brother was describing the band, I remember that Cheap Trick were a bunch of characters as well. Not in the makeup sense like Kiss was, but Bunny Carlos had his thing going on with the cigarette, with the glasses, he was wearing essentially like a business outfit. He was wearing a tie all the time, a white
straight
shirt.
off The Office.
Yes, straight out of The Office. And then you had Rick Nielsen with the baseball caps and with the with all his guitars, and you had Robin Zander on the cover of this is wearing like some pleated trousers and some fancy shirt where if anything he was going for trying to be the good looking guy in the band. And Tom Peterson had his own thing going on as well, so each member had their own succinct thing. So much like Kiss or the Beatles, they're heavily influenced by the Beatles with the harmonies and everything else. A lot of people credit them for being the first pop rock band because they mixed so many elements of pop music with what Kiss was doing, with what Aerosmith was doing, with what heavier rock bands at that time were doing. So they were a mix of both. And a lot of times you look at old festival bills back then, you would have Cheap Trick with Black Sabbath or with Kiss or with any band that was really a lot heavier than they were. They all got along and they all toured a lot together. I'm sure they toured plenty with Rush probably back then as well.
Yeah.
Yes, they did.
That's
But are they good?
Well, I
Yes.
saw them about 3 years ago supporting Def Leppard, and they were really good live.
Mhm.
They're on for about 45 minutes or so, and I'd never really listened to them before. I'd heard a few songs by them, but they were fun live. Yeah, good fun band.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Bunny Carlos is no longer the drummer. It's actually Rick Nielsen's son Dax is the drummer in the band now. But he plays everything to a T like Bunny did. So it all stayed within the family.
The irony here, and I've told this story before with you, Victor, is that the Kiss Alive 2 show that I went to, the warm-up act was Cheap Trick, and they got booed off the stage mercilessly. Yeah, but it's LA. LA is, Snobsville. So people just were like, what the hell is this crap? And it was just boo, boo, boo. And they barely got out of there alive. But I do have to say this about Cheap Trick. In one of my interviews with Nigel Glockner of Saxon, I asked him, I said, who was the funnest band you guys have ever toured with? And him and Paul Quinn both said Cheap Trick. Those guys were like the most fun guys to hang out with on tour. So I got to give him great credit for that.
Awesome. All right. So let's move on. For live at Budokan, a bunch of different people did. I can, yeah. Metal Dan did. I voted for it. There's quite a few people that did.
I had it in the list, but I took it out at the last minute.
See that? So there's several people that voted for it. All right. So number 3. Where is it? Here we go. Number 3 on the list. Ozzy Osbourne tribute.
Ooh, wow.
So here's another one where this got a lot of votes because obviously it ended up at 3. But Speak of the Devil got a lot of votes as well. It's further down the list somewhere, I believe. But it's one of those things where Ozzy had several big live albums. So if we were, if a lot of people voted for the same albums by the same artist, it may have even gotten higher. For me as a kid, the allure to this was they had talked up so much about Randy Rhoads playing on this. And obviously I had seen the show with Brad Gillis because MTV played it all the time, and they had, talked it up. Oh, this is the original guy that did all the Ozzy stuff. And by then, I knew Crazy Train because they played it at the roller rink when I was a kid. And if they didn't play it, I'd request it. And I knew little else because of my age. I was in 7th grade, I think, when this came out. And I remember buying it and going to my neighbor's house because he had Bark at the Moon. So we would, we sat there and we examined the gatefold front and back. I still have it. And again, much like all the other albums that I have, this is scratched to hell because I don't know the opening riff. Like you hear Randy's, like just the first note, and then it skips to like the next verse instantly. So it's and unfortunately the reissue of this, they cut out the entire the beginning with Carmen Burana because they didn't have the licensing for it or some shit. So they took it out, and it still sounds cool, but it's not the same without that operatic intro, and then all of a sudden I Don't Know kicks in. But and does anyone else want to talk about tribute?
It was the heaviest at its time when it came out. I mean, it was very, very hardcore back in the day.
Yeah, and I mean, if you think about it, if you listen to a lot of the guys from Metallica talk, they'll say that Randy's playing like is what gave them the evolution to do what they did in thrash, specifically the song Revelation, Mother Earth, Revelation, my bad, with the acoustic intro and the acoustic pieces, and then the faster solo, which Metallica took that. And I mean, you look at songs like Master of Puppets and Battery and Blackened and stuff like that. So there's elements of that they've used over the years, definitely. So anyone else want to talk about tribute?
It was my first Ozzy album.
Okay.
And I had I saw it and I was like, okay, this is a good way to get like a good part of the catalog.
Right.
I wasn't sure, so I got that, and so that was my actual like introduction to a lot of songs.
Yeah,
I'd heard Crazy Train, like I'm sure all of us had, but not much else.
Yeah, the other good thing too is if you had tribute, you essentially had every live album after that as well, because it made up the bulk of every other
True.
live album that he's released since, unfortunately. But
True.
this is bread and butter.
I was also like I think it was Live and Loud. That was Ozzy's other, like the next live album, I think, right?
I believe so. Yeah, he also
It
has.
wasn't on my list, but
Well, all right.
But yeah,
Finger
that's
raise
another-
moment here for my brother.
oh,
So
that's three.
Speak of the Devil tribute. Just Say Ozzy, which is technically an EP. Then it was
That's true.
there was Live and Loud, which was the first one with Zach. Then there's Live at Budokan, and then there's they've done a few other. I believe they've done like one or two other, and then they, with the reissue of Lizard of Oz and Diary of a Madman, they released an Ozzy Live. The album is called Ozzy Live, which is essentially with Randy. According to Rudy Sarzo's book, they only ever recorded 2 shows. One became tribute, and one became a like King Biscuit Flower Hour show. And that's what they essentially took and made that Ozzy Live album, which the songs are the same as tribute, but they're not polished. So Ozzy's vocals haven't been worked over like a million times. And you hear Randy like he's doing stuff on the guitar that he, in addition to what he does on tribute, there's like stuff in between songs and stuff, like the little noodlings that he does here and there. So it's cool to hear.
I think apropos to that is, I will say that back in the day, the allure was Ozzy and the whole Black Sabbath aura, or the bad boy aura, drinking a fifth of whiskey before going out on stage, and just the attitude, Ozzy's attitude. But later on in life, I do find myself actually, I'll listen to it now and again, but for Randy Rhoads, like really kind of being more so a connoisseur of guitar, and not that I'm a connoisseur of guitar from listening, not that I'm a master, but you could see that, the guy took classical guitar and it showed the stuff that he, you go back to it and listen to it, and it's like, holy cow. I find that to be the case with some of Eddie Van Halen's earlier stuff from back in the day. I know he, obviously took off into the stratosphere with some of the more refined music that he put out afterwards. However, it was just the clarity, or the unsophisticated, sophisticated way of playing. So anyway, that's my allure to it now.
Yeah. Brad, did you get a chance to see Randy live, either with Ozzy or with Quiet Riot?
I didn't see him with Quiet Riot, but I saw him with Ozzy twice.
Okay.
And yeah, he's he deserves to be the legend that he is, and both great concerts.
I'm assuming Motorhead opened for at least one of those.
Yes, you are correct. Ace of Spades tour. The other one was, believe it or not, the Ramones. And talk about another band that got booed off the stage. I mean, people were actually going out and buying drinks just to throw at them. It was unbelievable.
Well, that's as much as I love the Ramones,
hatred.
That's a huge. If you're talking about a festival, all right, I get it. But wow, to have Ozzy and the Ramones just back to back.
Yeah.
Brad, where did you see them at?
I saw, let's see, the first time I saw Ozzy, it was the Long Beach Sports Arena. I think that was with the Ramones. The second actually was New Year's Eve at the LA Sports Arena. And now that I think about it, maybe I saw him 3 times, because there was one with Motorhead. And I think the New Year's Eve one, it was just Ozzy. There was no warm-up act. If I'm not
did you see him in San Bernardino with the Swing?
No, I didn't see him at the Swing. Oh, guy, the Swing. What a tuna can. I loved going to shows there, though. I saw Rush at the Swing Auditorium.
That's a legend.
Awesome. Jerry saying that he never.
What year, Brad?
Oh, guy, I know you're. It's Spirit of Radio. Yeah, I know they were playing in Long Beach the next night, and I remember the big deal was that after the show, they each had their own Mercedes-Benz that they drove from San Bernardino down to Long Beach separately to stay there for the next show. And I can't remember how I found out that fact, but there was all these people that would hang out backstage, after those shows, and there was a lot of talk about that. But that was a great show. I think 38 Not So Special was the warm-up band, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh my gosh.
And even with two drummers, they still couldn't even like half catch up to Neil Peart.
Well, yeah.
I still don't know why they had two drummers. We'll leave that for another show. But yeah, Ozzy with Randy, I mean, that's a legendary piece of rock history right there.
Yeah, so Jerry's saying in the chat here he never saw Randy live. He flew into the bus before he had made it to Long Island.
Geez.
So Jerry was supposed to see the show, I'm assuming, and just due to that didn't get to see them. It would have been interesting to see them also right after that tour. There was a week, 10 days where he played with Bernie Torme, and then Gillis came in, and so that's another one of similar to like your stories, Brad, for people that have seen him, during one of those dates. That's like a badge of honor. I got to see Ozzy with Bernie or
Mel Torme.
Yeah, not Mel. Did I say Mel?
No, I did.
Oh, okay.
I was just saying that would be really something to see.
Well,
absolutely.
In any event, moving on to number 2. This was also number 1 for quite some time, but you want the drum roll? Is that what you're looking for there?
Yeah.
Kiss Alive is number 2. This was much like what you guys were mentioning before, with Budokan being the album that made Cheap Trick. Alive is the album that made Kiss. I have Alive as well, but unlike Alive 2, this isn't one of the early printings, so it doesn't have like all the doodads that came with the original. Like the original had a book and I forget what else it had, but when you start to become a vinyl connoisseur, or you run into people that are bigger Kiss nerds than you are, you find all this stuff out. So I thought it was an original copy for years, but apparently not. It's like a 5th or 6th generation vinyl, actually. So
Victor would go to the stores to buy vinyl with like 40 pounds worth of coins. Remember, you went to buy, I don't remember what album it was. And you actually, the girl at the store actually told you, please don't come back with all the coins to buy. You went in with quarters, nickels, dimes, and all. It was like $7 worth of coins. And I believe it may have been Kiss Alive. I don't remember. That's why I'm bringing it up.
Well,
that's how hardcore Victor was into music.
Well,
if anybody doubts it.
I'm sure that I told her the same thing that I would say today is it's still money, isn't it? So
probably, yeah. You had a quick tongue on you, yeah.
Yeah. So
did you carry it in a sock?
No, but it could have been a Ziploc bag.
That was my brother's thing.
Deny a Ziploc bag could have been possible.
Yeah, we didn't have regular plastic bags.
My brother was a sock person.
Oh well, yeah, that
might be quote of the day.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a conversation for a different show. That's
I'm tweeting that out right now.
yeah, that's the
Sorry, Chris.
the cardboard sock will be a discussion for a different show, folks. Anyway, Alive.
A cardboard sock.
Not gonna mention the logistics of that one to you, Steve. Anyway,
I'm gonna type it in Google.
I'm sure you'll get a lot of interesting imagery. Oh shit. So yeah, who wants to talk about Alive? Who's Brad? This ranked pretty high for you.
Yeah, I mean, geez, that holy crap. Again, that was the first Kiss album that I bought with my money. I'd had the other three because I'd borrowed them from other people, and I don't think they ever got them back. But I bought that one. The first time I saw Kiss was on that tour, and it was just, yeah. I mean, I already talked about the huge influence, and the huge influence on me. Gene Simmons influenced my bass playing more than anybody else, and that's what it be before I even saw him. Just playing along with these records, and just what I imagined it would be like. And believe it or not, I was scarily close. So, yeah, it's legendary. I think I think we kind of kissed this one. Yeah.
Well, and to Gene's credit, he, again, much like what I said about Peter Criss, Gene was a monster on bass early on. I mean, you really listen to his bass playing on those first few albums when he was still playing on them.
Yep.
He was hugely influenced by Motown. He was hugely influenced by Carol Kay is her name. She was in the Wrecking Crew.
Yeah, Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
Where he does a lot of walking that you don't even realize it. I mean, that was his thing. And nobody else in rock was really doing that. I mean, certainly blues, yeah, but I mean, he wasn't doing it like a blues person.
Right.
His bass playing very unique, and just the slides on the neck. That's one thing I still do without even thinking about, because it's just in my DNA.
Yeah.
And I think I told the story. The first band I was in, the guys wanted me to be in the band. And I said, there's only one way I'll be in your band, and that is if we play Deuce and you let me sing it. And they said, yeah. So there you go. That's how hardcore I was about Kiss at that time.
Awesome. Dan, you were shaking.
Oddly enough, when I sing, they say it's a Deuce.
Well, yeah, they said we'll let you do it so long as you playing and singing it isn't like dropping one.
Now the walking bass line.
Here's what's really funny is back then, Shelley and I were talking about this last night. The fact that lyrics weren't greatly published in albums back then like they are now. And so, back then in a band, you had to try to figure out what the band was singing. And it's hilarious how far off we were on so many things. And Deuce, not even close. And who knew what he was saying most of the time? It was brilliantly hilarious.
Yeah. Dan, you were saying about the walking bass.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good comment to make. To listen to the live stuff and just Gene's playing the way I focus on that, of what he's doing. They don't give him enough credit for what he's doing on bass.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a video with him and Carol Kay, and he says, I want you to show me how you played this song. And she said, are you kidding me? You can play this. He goes, no, I'm not that good of a bass player. And he never takes credit for it. There's Aaron, I forget Aaron's last name. He's on Radioactive Metal is the podcast that he's on, and he met Gene at a NAMM convention or something similar, and he went up to him And he said, Gene, can I shake your hand? You're my biggest influence, and you're the reason why I picked up playing bass. And Gene said to him, I'm sorry to hear that. There's a million other people that are way better than I am. So he's always been very humble with his playing. For everything that Gene gets shit about for being braggadocious and everything else, he's really, when you have like normal conversations with him, he's generally very humble with a lot of the stuff that he says.
Yeah, he takes credit for a lot of things he does, business and whatever, but he's a bass player, and he should just be proud of that alone, of how good he is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they. I mean, all those guys could play back in the day. They all were really, really good, and they got no credit for it. And even Paul Stanley, he was a great guitar player. He's a great rhythm guitar player. He played, some little lead pieces here and there. But even when he's out there jumping around like crazy, he was still playing the parts. I mean, when you saw him live, they sounded unbelievably great.
Yeah. Songs like Rock Bottom and stuff like that, the intros to those songs and the chord progressions and stuff, a lot of people pan it off to say, oh, it's just easy. No, try to play the songs like they were originally written, not how you think they sound. Those are two completely different things. Steve, you keep trying to get a word in. Go ahead.
It was going back to the Dean being humble about when people met him and said, oh, you're a big influence. I met Dave Mustaine once, and I was like, oh, you're a big influence on me. He's like, I hope you don't suck.
There you go. That's Dave being humble for you.
Yes.
Dave 312.
There you go. Yeah, Dave 312 is, I am no longer hooked on anything, yet I smoke a bong every day. Anyway.
That's a supplement. It's not.
Yes, there you go.
It's an herbal supplement.
There you go.
All right, well, let's see if Megadeth's album number 1.
There you go. Well, anyone else want to talk about Alive before we get to number 1? All right.
Here we go.
I believe Jerry's calling it.
Good call. Yeah.
Live After Death. Absolutely. Jerry probably has the original copy. I got, before vinyl started being the thing again, I got it was only being printed in Japan for a long time. So I actually have a Japanese copy that I got off of eBay like 15 years ago. But just an amazing album. Let's see if I can play this without getting demonetized this week. But I will always remember hearing this for the first time because we were going on a trip. I was freshly off the plane here in Spain. We were going on a hiking trip for the weekend. There's hullabaloo around that. And this little kid comes up to me and says, hey, you speak English, don't you? Yeah, I just got off the plane, just came from the States. Okay. Can you translate what the singer's saying here?
And the moral of this story is this is what not to do if your bird shits on you.
So yes, I had to tell this like 8-year-old. So he's saying, and the moral of this story is what not to do when a bird shits on you, as well as explain before Revelations, ironing curtains or something like that. So I had to explain to this kid, well, they don't always make sense when they say shit between songs. It's just
filler.
Just trying to get people in the mood. So Iron Maiden, Live After Death.
I'm going to say something though about Bruce, okay?
Go ahead.
Is that none of that stuff was, the same shtick. You know what I mean? It's not like he said that every night. Like there's plenty of guys who do that. Every night it's the same introduction. Every night it's this. Bruce is 100% off the cuff. And he's, if you get him on a rare night where he's really on one, he's incredible.
Well, on the VHS copy, DVD copy, he goes on and talks about the fact that that the original poem written by Samuel Coleridge was about Queen Mary, and about he wrote it to her and she read it on the toilet in secret while she was having menstrual cramps or something along those lines. I mean, the story is completely different to this is what not to do when a bird shits on you. So, you know, and in between, yeah, the banter's completely different. I always found it amazing that Steve Harris would say, I don't like this album because we played the songs too fast. But that's kind of, again, kind of the allure to the album. There's a special feeling to it that makes it sound live, as opposed to some of the other stuff that not only Maiden has put out, but other bands have released. To me, this is hugely important. It was the first live album outside of Kiss that meant anything to me. So, I mean, it was a chance meeting of this kid on a bus playing a, you know, copy that he had, and me coming back from that trip and buying Live After Death and Peace of Mind the following day in a record shop here in Spain. So to me, it's a hugely important album. And, you know, to just hear the crowd, hear how they were playing the songs. And yeah, it's two different shows, and they've never lied about it. Well, actually, sides 1 through 3 are taken from 5 separate shows at Long Beach Arena. And then side 4 is from the Hammersmith Odeon in London. But Jerry, since you're holding it up, your thoughts on Live After Death?
Arguably one of the best concerts I've seen live.
So you got to see them.
Period.
You got to see them on this tour.
That's what Coliseum is.
There you go.
Is that the year of the riots?
There were riots here at the Coliseum.
Well,
here in New York / New Jersey. I think it was the Madison Square Garden show where, and I guess some of the riots started when they were knocking the police off their horses and trying to take the horses down themselves. That's how interesting the show was.
Yeah, for this tour though, as Jerry was saying, they played Radio City. It says that they in the actual book, yeah, that's on the inside. They did like 5 nights at Radio City. It was the only 2 shows the only 2 places they did 5 dates on that tour was Radio City and Long Beach Arena, which is where this comes from. So I always wondered, you know, did they record the New York shows just in case, you know, and then decide that they were going with Long Beach instead? Obviously, Long Beach Arena is probably bigger because Radio City holds, I think, 10,000 people. Radio City isn't that big. You know,
No.
It's smaller than the Garden, and the Garden for a show is like 15,000, I think, at the most.
And I felt so sorry for Bruce for his hearing problems after the Long Beach shows.
Yeah, Long Beach fucked up his hearing for good. There you go. Jeremy, the importance of this album in the UK.
Yeah, well, all Maiden albums were really important in the UK, and you know, just to have Iron Maiden on a live album was really, really exciting at the time. I picked up on what you were saying about them saying it was very fast. They're playing the songs fast. That doesn't surprise me, because a long time back in their history, they played on Top of the Pops in the UK, which is you know, sort of a Thursday night program where we'd hear bands play. And Iron Maiden were one of the only bands that ever played live on that. And they played Twilight Zone on there, which was very fast. Or was it Wrathchild? I think it was Wrathchild. It was a double A side anyway, I think, at the time, the 2 songs. And they played the song really fast. And I remember at the time thinking that they'd rush through it. So, you know, fast forward and they're doing it on this album. But I mean, it's a great collection of all their, you know, of their great songs. And it reminds you of, you know, why Iron Maiden are such a big band, because if you think about it, Iron Maiden are probably one of the biggest bands, aren't they? Which we would all agree on as being so important for metal. And there's a reason for it. You know, they play great live, and that's the essence of Iron Maiden, that they are a live band, and they toured for so long. You know, they were playing month after month live and honing their show.
Yeah, Dan is showing us, what is that, the Final Frontier, the poster?
I started collecting looks like in 03. I knew about the posters before that, and I stupidly have thrown some away previous, but I have them all around my room. So when I go to the next show, I must get the concert poster or I have failed. So yes, I have many around here. And I had that Power Slave. I had that live, and I threw it away back in the day.
Yeah.
What was I thinking?
Yeah, I had the remember the old Iron Maiden black light posters that were like felt or velvet or whatever that was. I had the Number of the Beast cover like that, and same deal. I threw it away. I'm like, you would see that at the store all the time.
My brother had that and Some Mind, I believe.
Oh wow,
the black light posters.
Yeah. Because I only remember seeing the first few albums, so that sounds about right. Who else wants to discuss Live After Death?
Number one pick. Twisted Sister opened those shows for Long Beach. I was young. That was like my second or third real big concert ever. And Warrior opened the show for me, where I saw them in San Bernardino, which wasn't the Swing, because the Swing had gotten hit by a plane and it became something else, and Brad knows about that. See, he's laughing. So I was at that dump, and it was hot and sweaty, but God, I miss hot and sweaty concerts now, and stinking and pee and beer and all that, But I was right up there too. It was packed, and I was probably 15 rows off the kids, 15 years old or whatever, and just going for it. Yeah.
Wow. We need to talk about Warrior sometime. Obviously, this isn't the place, but we need to talk about that.
Oh, you mean that band that Vinnie Vincent had with the guys from?
No. That was the fake Warrior. Yeah.
I know Joe Floyd.
Yeah.
Next time you get Nalbandian on, we can talk Warrior.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's Joe Floyd worked on a lot of those Inside Metal DVDs. So yeah, he knows a great deal about them.
Fake Warrior Renegade. That one's just for you, Victor.
Yes, that's a wrestling reference. So yeah, any surprise to you guys that Live After Death is the number one album?
No.
Not a surprise.
No, they were so good on that tour. That's the first time I saw them with Bruce, and it was an unbelievable show. It was just you at the time you're like, nothing's better than this.
Yeah,
and I know I made the singer from my band go, and Johan will kind of appreciate this because he's certainly not a Bruce Dickinson, but what happened there? Are we still there?
You're still here.
Yeah, CEO Dave's kicked me out of the picture there. But anyway, the singer in my band, he was just like holy crap. He says, I wish I could command an audience like Bruce Dickinson. He says, just watching him and the way it's like, man, when he gets up there in front of the stage, everybody's in. It's like if he told people to do whatever, they would do it. And he was just I mean, he was the ultimate front man at that time. Nobody was better than him.
And what was it like for you seeing them with Deano and then jumping over to Bruce? I mean, instantly did you?
Huge difference. I mean, they were of course, when I saw them with Deano, that was at the Long Beach Sports Arena warming up for UFO, post Schenker UFO. They were on the No Place to Run tour, and that was their first headlining show in LA area. But I mean, they were really, really good, but they didn't have that personality. You know what I mean? Deanna was not a big front man. He just stood there and sang. And I mean, he did it well, and the band played really well. But Bruce took him to a whole new level.
Yeah, I remember seeing that Top of the Pops footage on one of their VHS tapes, excuse me. And every time that Deano's singing a line and running free, he's just moving his head. That's the only thing he's doing. So,
for me, it's as a kid, 14 or 15, whenever I was, when it was released, it was the most beautiful record ever made, with a cover and the gatefold and the booklet. It was magic. But for me, the live feeling was better with Scorpions Worldwide Live, was released a couple of months earlier.
Right.
But 2 10 out of 10 records, absolutely. And you shouldn't compare these two. They are both, top of the line. So, Rush released a record called Rush in Rio. Have you ever heard it? So if you haven't not, so try Rush in Rio. It's a good gateway into Rush.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, Jerry is saying that the DVD is awesome for
It is.
For Live After Death here. Yeah, absolutely. Funny thing is, I don't know if all these years later people are aware of this, but when it was first released in the States on CD, they didn't have side 4. So the show from the Hammersmith Odeon wasn't included. And I believe it's Running Free, which is where Bruce does the Long Beach fucked up my hearing routine. All that is cut out. It's just, it gets up to that point where he's about to do all the chanting part, and that's all, it's all edited out, and it's just the end of the song. I remember getting the CD, being so excited to get it, and all of a sudden being just so pissed off, realizing that I didn't have, that side 4 and didn't have, the full Running Free. And I remember I was hoping, I'm like, oh, they couldn't have cut that side 4 out. It had to be, they have to be hidden tracks on here. Nope. No hidden tracks. They were gone. They weren't there. And then when they reissued it, finally, I had to get it out. I had to get the reissue on CD because it had, side 4. So, let's see. So you guys are chatting back and forth here. How many denim jackets with Eddie on the back? A whole ton. Jerry saying that 0 for him, but 37 Eddie t-shirts. There you go. Johan is saying that 90% of everyone in Sweden has Eddie on a denim jacket. So now you go to festivals here in Europe, there's always an Iron Maiden presence. I mean, they have to be the band that has the most amount of merch being sported by people at shows. I mean, so yeah, and there you go. Jerry's showing us all the various Iron Maiden paraphernalia he has. I saw a number of the Beast. I saw and he's got the Trooper flag, which he's been in front of the whole time. So yeah, there's no mistaking that Jerry's a big fan of Maiden as well. I mean, he's obviously been one of the people that have been flying the flag throughout the shows, and we've talked about the recent few albums as well. So that just about does it here. I do want to thank Metal Dan. I want to thank Jeremy. I want to thank Johan. I want to thank Brad with Molly the Metal Dog there. Steve Hoker, who was in the black the whole time. He's none blackest than Steve tonight. Jose and Jerry, and my brother, who somehow is in the chat but is not on screen. I don't know why. But I want to thank all of you guys for being here tonight. I want to thank the other patrons that were not here tonight. Anthony Mackey, Ed Ferguson, let's see, Chris Vaglio, Mike Jones, and Steven Saylor. Thank all you guys, too, for all your support and for submitting your lists. And thank you, anyone who's watching this live, who's been watching it live. I know Rob Rowe has been in the chat. Thank you, Rob, for hanging out with us tonight. And thanks to anyone who watches this or listens to the podcast version. It's been a blast as usual with you guys. And next month we will be back with a band discussion. We have to vote on what band we're going to talk about next month. I don't know. What band does Johan want to talk about? Maybe the Choir Boys or something like that.
No, but I mean, it's about time for Rush now, isn't it?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Come on, boys.
I second it.
Let's do it. Yeah.
I'm in.
I
Rush.
mean, yeah, because Rush isn't that big a band in Sweden, but I know in America and UK they are huge. So I would really, really like to hear what you think about them.
But in Johan's household, there is no band bigger than Rush, correct?
Correct.
See,
Not
so
even
that's all
harm.
that matters.
If you ask me, yeah, correct.
Yeah.
But if you ask my son, he's more into Cannibal Corpse and Amon Amarth and
Wow.
yeah.
There you go. Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for being here tonight, and thanks everyone for watching and listening. We will see you next time right here on the Signals from Mars live stream. See ya.